meditation, some perceive the self in the self by the self, others by the path of wisdom, and still others by the path of works. Look at the beauty of Vyasji. If I were to give a simple and clear translation from Sanskrit into English in terms of the alignment of words, then he uses the words Atmanam, meaning the Supreme Soul, Atmana, by the self, Atmani, in the self. Atmanam, Atmana, Atmani, the Supreme Soul, by the self, in the self. Shri Krishna tells Arjun that by meditation, some people perceive the Supreme Soul in the self, by the self. Atmani, in the self, is a seventh alignment that is a type of grammar is called a vocative. One perceives the Atmanam, the Supreme Soul, Atmani, in the self, Atmana, by the self. If we replace the word Atma, soul, to bring it into everyday language, then we can see that one sees, for example, Sangita, in Sangita, by Sangita. The Supreme Soul says it is possible for the self to be perceived in the self, by the self, through meditation. This means seeing something through that same thing. If you wish to perceive the soul, then you have to perceive the soul through the soul. If I wish to see a television camera, then I'm not able to see the television camera through the television camera. It is a unique thing about the soul that you can only perceive it through that which you are going to perceive. Not only that, but you can only see the soul in the soul itself. Therefore, one perceives Atmanam, the Supreme Soul, Atmani, in the self, Atmana, by the self, through meditation. The Supreme Soul spoke about what Dhyan, meditation, is in the 6th chapter of the Gita. The videos are up on www.gitaclass.org. It was described in great detail. The Maitreya Upanishad says that Jodahe Pratishtaya Siratma Sane Atmana Nirvishyam Manaha. Meditation is nothing other than making the mind free from all objects and the practice of freeing the mind from all objects. I said in chapter 6 that the mind either sticks to objects or the mind sticks to people. The mind makes efforts to stick to objects or to people, but one should make the mind go away from objects or people. We say that objects and people are different because of the language, but according to spirituality, they are both objects. Vedantis use the word padart, materials, for them. In the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, it is said that dhyan heyas tada vutayaha. Through meditation, the tribulations and other negative attitudes that arise as a result of ignorance get destroyed. Srimad Adi Shankaracharya said in his commentary of the Shvetasvatara Upanishad that Tasya Vidanat Yoganat Tattva Bhava Puyas Chante Vishva Mayani Vruttihi. Through meditation of the Supreme Soul, when the individual gets joined with the feeling of non-difference and non-duality and keeps imagining that he is Brahman, then in the end, one becomes free from the illusion of the world. One joins their mind with God. Mano buddhya hamkaro chitana ham na cha shotra jihoed na cha graha netre na chaivo na bhumi na tejo na vayu sachitananda rupa shivoham shivoham. Neither am I the mind, nor the intelligence, nor the ego, nor the thought. Nor am I the ears, nor the tongue, nor the nose, nor the eyes. Nor am I the earth, nor the sky, nor the air, nor the light. I am Shiva. I am Shiva of existence, wisdom and bliss. When this auto-suggestion constantly keeps happening, then at that time one becomes free of the Maya illusion in the form of the world. In the Yogi Yagnavalkya Sahita, there's a very beautiful verse that Lalata Madhye Hridayam Bhujeva Yodahi Gnan Mayim Prabhantu Shaktim Yadahi Padvad Ujalantim Pashyanti Te Brahma Tadageta Nishtaha. In the chakra of wisdom, between the two eyebrows, the Agnya chakra, or the lotus of the heart, when one meditates on the light of wisdom, then at that time, a power like the flame of the lamp becomes manifest, and in that, those who become steady in that have a direct vision of Brahman. The Supreme Soul described the difference between Purush, the soul, and Prakriti, nature, through this path of Gnan, wisdom. Through Dhyan meditation, the yogi on a path of Dhyan meditation experiences the difference between the Purush and Prakriti. Therefore, God showed the first route through Dhyan meditation, where one perceives the Supreme Soul in the self, by the self. Shri Krishna says that some others perceive this by the path of Samkhya Yoga. This is the second path. We saw Samkhya Yoga already in the second chapter of the Gita. The same of the whole second chapter of the Gita is called Samkhya Yoga, the yoga of Samkhya. Samkhya Yoga is at the root is Vivek, discrimination. What discrimination is this? It is a discrimination that I am not the body, I am the soul. Through the discrimination of Samkhya Yoga, the yoga of Samkhya, one becomes conscious about the difference between that which is Sat, truth, and that which is Asat, non-truth. The human being finds out about this. The human being understands that the Sat, the truth, is eternal. The Sat, the truth, is perpetual. The Sat, the truth, is beginningless. And the Sat is omnipresence. Whereas the Asat, the untruth, is temporary and it is ever-changing from moment to moment. One realizes that I am not the Asat, that is temporary, and it is ever-changing from moment to moment. I am the Sat, I am the truth. One understands this through Samkhya, becomes different from Prakriti nature and its activities, and experiences the Supreme Soul in the Self by the Self. This is the second path. The Supreme Soul explained Gnan, wisdom, earlier in the 13th verse, and then said that one experiences also through Dhyan, meditation, where it is also possible to experience the Supreme Soul in the Self by the Self. One can experience this through Dhyan, meditation, Samkhya, and thirdly, through Karma Yoga, the yoga of works. Some others investigate this through Karma Yoga, the yoga of works. How does this happen? Karma Yoga, the yoga of works, has already been explained in the Gita, where it was said that in all the activities that a Karma Yogi performs, such as yagna, dan, donations, tapa, austerities, vrat, penances, upavas, fasting, and jap, chanting the name of God, with a feeling of nishkam, being free with desire. He wants no consequences, and he has no expectations for the fruits. And because he does not want the consequences, he does not want the fruit, and therefore he also becomes different from the person who experiences the fruits. And the body experiences the fruits. A true karma yogi, a person on a path of karma, is one who performs karma without the feelings of desire, has no expectations for the fruits, and performs karma only for the well-being of creatures. Such a person becomes free from the fruits. He even becomes separated from the body that experiences the fruits, and after reaching that state, he perceives the Supreme Soul in the Self by the Self. He has a vision of the Supreme Soul in the state. This is very necessary. These three words of this verse are of a lot of importance. Atmanam, the Supreme Soul, Atmani, in the Self, Atmana, by the Self, and Pashanti, to perceive. Commentators interpret the word Atmana as the intellect. Therefore, one perceives the Supreme Soul by a pure intellect and by a subtle intellect. And Atmani is interpreted as in the heart and the Antakaran, the inner being. Therefore, one perceives the Supreme Soul in the heart and the Antakaran, the inner being. This chapter was begun with a thought that we considered the body to be our own form. In order to make this mistake go away, the Supreme Soul has instructed us on a middle way that we will not be able to completely break all bonds with the body, but do so much that the God is sitting inside the body. We should perceive the Supreme Soul in the Self. We should perceive the Supreme Soul inside the body. God is right there. If a person is addicted to chain smoking, where as soon as one cigarette finishes, then he likes another cigarette, then if he has a little faith in Dharma and in God, then he'll put out the cigarette before he goes inside the temple. Then he goes inside the temple to pray to God and comes outside and lights another cigarette. He is not only lighting a cigarette, but he's setting his whole life alight. But we may ask him why he stopped smoking that cigarette. He replies that because he was going inside the temple, and so he cannot keep his cigarette with him at that time. We then ask him why he lit the cigarette when he came outside. He said it's because he came outside the temple. Well, clever person, the whole world is God's temple. And temple is not just four walls. But when a person considers this to be limited, then he thinks that God is only a temple because the idol is there, and therefore God is over there, and therefore you shouldn't do it. If one sees the idol of the Supreme Soul in this temple of the world, and one has had the experience of the Supreme Soul in the temple of the world, then there will be no limitations for him. Therefore, the world does not feel like a temple for us. The world feels like a house for material enjoyments and a means for material enjoyments. And we consider it to be ours. In reality, the world is not a means for material enjoyments, it is a temple of the Supreme Soul. I remember an example. I once saw a film, but I don't remember the names of the films anymore. I remember some films that I saw a long time ago, but I never remember the names. In a film, there was a very big landowner, and he fell in love with a prostitute or a dancer. He then stays at the Dancers Inn, is a Bollywood film, it's something like that. He had a beautiful wife, a very big family, land, wealth and everything, but he didn't pay attention to any of this. He would just stay at the Dancers Inn. We are like this landowner. We consider this body to be a Dancers Inn. We consider it to be a house for material enjoyments. The poet Bhartrhari has said that Aditya se gata gate raha raha Sangit se jivanam vyapare bhaukarya bhara guruhi Kalo me vignayate dashva janma chara vipari maranam tashta no padyate. Pitva moho mai pramad madiram puna mata bhutan jagat. Every day the sun rises and every day the sun sets, and we have less life left. People think that there's a lot of business to do, and the burden of work pressure is so much that one does not even know where all this time went. Every day people see the births, old ages, sufferings and deaths. Yet despite seeing this, people do not even get thirsty. Having drunk the intoxicant of delusion and negligence, the world has gone mad in its perception of things. All of this happens every day. We say that the sun is setting. The sun is not setting. You are setting that day. How is the sun going to set? Bhartrhari was talking about work pressure so long ago. It is so much that one does not even know where all the time goes. A person goes to work at 8 a.m. and therefore he knows that it's 5:30 p.m. One does not even know where all the time went. One day just went, and just like that the whole life goes. One begins to sit in office when they turn 22 or 24, then before they know it they turn 72 or 74, or 50 years just go like that. One does not even know where all the time went. We spoke about the different phases of life such as birth, old age and death earlier in the Gita. People see other people going through these stages every day, and yet people never get thirsty. Siddhartha Gautama had only 4 visions of these stages. He saw an old person, a person sick with a deadly disease, a person about to die, and a sannyasi, a man of renunciation. And after seeing only these 4 visions, Siddhartha Gautama performed the Mahabhinishkrama, the great renunciation, as a result of which he became Buddha, meaning the enlightened one. He thought about why a person becomes old. He saw old age. He also saw illness and sickness. He also saw death. Think about it, that this prince was 20 or 22, and until then he had never seen the last moments of someone's life. And one day when he saw it, he asked his charioteer who was with him that, Chandak, why are 4 people taking this person away? Chandak said, Prince, this person has died. Gautama asked what has happened to him, and Chandak said that this person has died. Gautama asked, what is it for a person to die? Chandak said, Prince, when a human being dies, then he is not able to get up and walk again. These 4 people will go and give him his cremation. This thing affected Siddhartha so much that a person who is walking and running may one day not be able to walk again, and 4 people take him away and bury him to give him his cremation. Then what happens, burn him to give his cremation, then what happens, and where did this person go? Until now, I thought that a person just gets born. If a body comes and a body goes, then what actually remains? Then he saw a sannyasi, a man of renunciation. During that time, sannyasi, men of renunciation, used to wear yellow robes, yellow clothes. They were called nirgrant, people of simple behavior. He saw him and asked why this person is wearing such clothes. Janak said that they have gone out in search of life's secrets. Siddhartha said, I also wish to learn the secrets of life. He left, performed the Mahabhinishkrama, the great renunciation, and in the end became Buddha, meaning the enlightened one. After seeing only these 4 visions of these stages of life, Buddha performed the Mahabhinishkrama, the great renunciation. We keep seeing these visions endlessly, and our hairs do not even move. This is the difference between Buddha, meaning the enlightened one, and Buddhu, meaning a stupid one. Bhartrhari says the reason why people's hairs do not move is that having drunk the intoxicant of ignorance, the world has gone mad in its perception of things. That is why people do not think about these things. What is this alcohol here in that has made people drunk with this intoxication of ignorance? It is his body. I consider my body to be a house for material enjoyments, but what if I see the Supreme Soul inside his body? It is for this reason that Shri Krishna said here that Atmanam, the Supreme Soul, Atmani, in the self, Atmana, by the self, and Pashyanti, to perceive. Who do we have to see? The soul. What do we have to see the soul through? The soul. And where do we have to see the soul? In the soul. We do not need to go anywhere outside, The instrument is this, the place is this, and the vision is also this. All of these are the same. We may then ask God that, Lord, you've explained that through Dhyan Yoga, the yoga of meditation, Samkhya Yoga, the yoga of Samkhya, and Karma Yoga, the yoga of action, people perceive the Supreme Soul in the self, by the self, but we only have a few hours in order to understand the Gita, for example, a discourse from 7 o'clock to 8:30, and only 5 to 7 days a month. Then how would we be able to perform Dhyan Yoga, the yoga of meditation, Samkhya Yoga, the yoga of Samkhya, Karma Yoga, the yoga of action, and all of this? God is there aware of us, and God is so full of compassion that he has kept a route from everyone. God tells us to read the next verse, which we'll cover in the next class. So